Welcome to the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Today, we're going to do a deep dive into something I think we all struggle with a little bit, and that is, making time for coaching.
Yeah.
And the book that we're using to guide us on this journey is Michael Bungay Stanier's The Coaching Habit. Say less, ask more, and change the way you lead.
Great book.
It's a really great book. I think it's got a lot of really practical tips, so I'm excited to unpack this with you.
Yeah, and it's interesting, because the book really tackles this head on, like, we're all busy.
Yeah.
And, traditional coaching can feel like this big formal thing.
Right.
And you just can't squeeze it in,
Right. And it really resonated with me because the book really argues that coaching can be a habit, something that you integrate into your everyday interactions, even if you only have like 10 minutes.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It's not about overhauling your entire schedule. It's about asking the right questions. And Stanier provides 7 of them that can really transform how you lead and interact with your team.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So let's start with the first one, the kickstart question.
Yeah.
And it's, what's on your mind? It seems almost too simple, right?
It does.
Yeah.
And that's the brilliance of it, Think about how many work conversations get bogged down in small talk.
Oh, yeah.
Or we jump into problem-solving mode before we really understand what's going on.
Totally guilty of that.
Right.
Assuming that I already know what the issue is and going right to trying to solve it.
That's what Stanier calls the default diagnosis.
Okay.
And this question helps you avoid that trap.
Yeah.
It immediately focuses the conversation on what's truly important to the other person. And then to help narrow it down even further, he introduces this 3 Ps framework, projects people and patterns.
So instead of just reacting to whatever's on fire at the moment,
Yes.
you're using these 3 Ps to guide the conversation towards the real root of the issue.
Exactly. It's about seeing the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Are we talking about a specific project, a challenge with a team member, or maybe a recurring pattern of behavior that's causing problems?
This is really helpful. It's like having a mental checklist, almost,
Yeah,
to make sure you're addressing the right area,
absolutely.
not just putting out surface-level fires all the time.
And once you've got that clarity, you can move on to the another question, which Stanier calls the best coaching question in the world, which is, and what else?
Wait, seriously, and what else? Tell me there's more to it than that.
I know it sounds almost too basic, right?
Yeah.
But think about it. How often do we accept the first answer that someone gives us? There's always more beneath the surface.
Right.
This question forces people to dig deeper, uncover those hidden challenges. And often that's where the most innovative solutions emerge.
Okay. I'm starting to see the power of it.
Right.
Instead of just accepting the obvious answer, you're encouraging them to really explore all the angles and possibilities.
Exactly. And the book even mentions some research about decision-making. People presented with more options actually make better decisions and are more likely to succeed.
Wow.
It's like breaking free from that binary thinking of this or that and opening up a whole world of possibilities.
So, and what else? It's almost like a little mind hack.
Yeah.
Pushing people beyond their initial assumptions and helping them discover new solutions they might not have considered otherwise.
Precisely.
Okay.
It's about encouraging deeper thinking and ultimately empowering them to find their own answers now once you've explored all those facets with, and what else? You want to bring things into sharper focus.
Yeah.
That's where the focus question comes in.
Okay.
What's the real challenge here for you?
I see how this is crucial because we all have those situations where we're talking in circles,
Right.
focusing on the symptoms instead of the root cause. And this question feels designed to really cut through all that clutter.
Exactly. And the book highlights some common tendencies that can cloud our judgment, like focusing on too many things at once, blaming external factors, or speaking in vague generalities.
He calls these foggy fires.
Okay.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that story in the book about someone complaining about a difficult colleague.
Oh, yeah.
But instead of getting caught up in all that gossip,
Right.
the focus question really redirects the conversation.
Yes.
It's like, okay, that's their issue.
Right.
What's your challenge in dealing with this person?
It brings the focus back to the person you're coaching
Yes.
and their own agency in this situation.
Right.
They can only change themselves,
Right.
not the ghost of the problem.
That shift in perspective feels really powerful. You're helping them take ownership
Yeah.
instead of getting stuck in blame or complaining.
Absolutely.
So once we've identified that real challenge, what's the next step?
Well, it's deceptively simple, but it lays the foundation for a truly collaborative coaching relationship.
Okay.
The question is, what do you want?
This feels tricky because sometimes people don't even know what they want themselves, right?
Yeah.
Especially when they're stressed or overwhelmed. You're absolutely right, and Stanier points out that we often jump into problem-solving mode.
Yes.
Before we even clarify what the desired outcome is,
Oh, yeah.
we assume we know, but that can lead to a lot of wasted effort and frustration.
So this question is about getting everyone on the same page.
Yes.
Making sure there's clarity and alignment before you even start talking about solutions.
Exactly. It's about setting clear expectations and ensuring that everyone feels heard and understood.
Okay.
And to make it even more powerful, Stanier suggests a twist.
Sure.
Ask the question
Mm-hmm.
and be willing to share your own answer as well.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So it's not just about extracting information from the other person.
Right.
It's about creating a sense of transparency and shared purpose.
Exactly. It's like you're saying, look, I'm in this with you.
Yeah.
Let's figure out what we both want and how we can work together to get there.
That makes so much sense. It feels more like a partnership
Right.
than like a top-down, I'm the boss, you do what I say kind of dynamic.
Right. Right. And when people feel like they're part of the solution,
Yeah.
they're more likely to be engaged and motivated to contribute their best work.
Okay, so we've established what everyone wants. Now the next question feels particularly relevant to me. How can I help?
Yes. The question that saves you from becoming the overstretched rescuer.
Yes.
I think we've all been there.
100%.
Someone comes to you with a problem, and your instinct is to jump in and fix it for them.
Oh, yeah.
That's the trap that Stanier wants us to avoid. He calls it the rescuer role
Okay.
in something called the Cartman drama triangle.
Okay.
And essentially, when we constantly try to rescue others,
Yeah.
it keeps them dependent and prevents them from developing their own problem-solving skills.
So this question forces them to articulate exactly what they need from you.
Yes.
Instead of just dumping the problem in your lap and expecting you to handle it.
Exactly. It's about empowering them to take ownership and giving yourself permission to set boundaries.
Okay. And he even suggests a more direct,
He does.
but potentially riskier version. What do you want from me?
He does, but he also acknowledges that this can come across as blunt if you're not careful.
Right.
It's all about your tone and intention.
So curiosity, not interrogation.
Right.
Okay, now speaking of avoiding overwhelm, the next question really gets to the heart of making strategic choices.
Yeah.
If you're saying yes to this, what are you saying no to?
The strategic question.
Yeah.
It's so powerful because it forces us to confront the reality of limited time and resources.
Right.
We can't do everything.
Yeah.
So what are we willing to sacrifice to make room for this new commitment?
We've all felt that pressure to say yes to everything.
Yes.
But as Stanier says, being busy is a form of laziness.
Yes.
It's about avoiding that good busy mentality.
Right.
And making conscious choices about where we invest our energy.
And you can use the 3 Ps here as well.
Okay. Right.
Which projects people or patterns that you need to say no to in order to truly commit to this new thing.
It's about aligning your actions with your priorities.
Yeah.
And making sure you're not just reacting, but being strategic about where you focus your efforts.
Exactly. And that's a valuable skill to develop both for yourself and for the people you're coaching.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
We've identified the real challenge, clarified what everyone wants, and even talked about setting boundaries and making strategic choices.
Yeah.
What's the final question in this coaching sequence?
Well, it seems like a really smart way to end a coaching conversation and reinforce learning what was most useful for you.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like that.
This is about ensuring that the conversation translates into action and lasting change.
Right.
It encourages reflection
Yeah.
and helps people internalize the insights they've gained.
I'm really fascinated by this concept of double loop learning that he mentions.
Yes.
It's not just about solving the immediate problem.
Right.
It's also about identifying patterns and adjusting your approach for future situations.
And this question prompts that deeper level of reflection.
Yeah.
It helps people connect the dots and extract valuable lessons that they can apply going forward.
It reminds me of that research about the peak end rule.
Oh, yeah.
How our memory of an experience is heavily influenced by how it ends.
Right.
So ending a coaching conversation on a positive note with a focus on learning can really shape their overall perception and make them more receptive to coaching in the future.
Exactly. And the book even uses this unexpected example of a colonoscopy study.
Okay, a colonoscopy study about coaching.
Yes.
I'm definitely intrigued.
So researchers found that patients whose colonoscopies were extended slightly but ended with less discomfort discomfort actually remembered the whole procedure as less unpleasant
Okay.
than those who had shorter, more painful endings.
That's wild.
Right. It really highlights how important that ending is
Yeah.
in shaping our overall perception of an experience.
So interesting.
And applying that to coaching by ending with what was most useful for you.
Yeah.
You're not just reinforcing learning, but also leaving them with a positive feeling about the interaction.
It's really making me rethink how I approach conversations,
Yeah.
both at work and in my personal life.
Mm-hmm.
It's about asking the right questions and creating space for reflection and growth.
It's a shift from giving advice to fostering self-discovery.
I love that. And the best part is these questions are just the beginning.
Right.
There's so much more to explore in the coaching habit, from the neuroscience of engagement to the art of saying no effectively.
We've only scratched the surface today, but hopefully this has given you a taste of how powerful these simple questions can be
Yeah.
in transforming your leadership and your interactions with others. You know, one of the things that struck me as we were going through those questions is how much emphasis Stanier places on curiosity.
Yeah.
It's like the foundation for everything else.
Absolutely. It makes me think about those times when I've gone into a conversation with like a preconceived notion or thinking I already knew the answer.
Right.
That's not really coaching, is it?
Not at all. And the book actually dedicates a whole chapter to the art of listening. And it's not just about passively hearing words.
Yeah.
It's about being truly present and curious about what the other person is saying and even what they're not saying.
That can be tough, though, especially when we're all so busy and bombarded with information.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for like how to stay truly present and curious in those moments?
Well, Stanier has this great little trick.
Yep.
He says, after you ask a question, resist the urge to jump in right away with another question or comment.
Okay.
Just pause, stay open, and give the other person space to think.
I can see how that could feel awkward at first, that silence.
Yeah.
But I bet it's in those moments that people come up with their own insights rather than just waiting for you to tell them what to do.
Exactly. You're creating a space for discovery, not just delivering instructions.
Okay, so we've talked about curiosity, asking the right questions, and actively listening. What other key principles or techniques stood out to you from the book?
Well, you know, something that really resonated with me was Stanier's emphasis on the power of saying no.
Okay.
Not in a negative way,
Right.
but as a way to protect your time and energy so you can truly commit to the things that matter most.
That's such an important point, and it connects back to that idea of avoiding the good busy trap.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in feeling like we have to say yes to everything.
Yeah, and then we end up feeling overwhelmed, resentful, and ultimately less effective.
Absolutely.
Right, and Stanier offers some practical strategies for getting better at saying no gracefully.
Okay.
One that I found helpful is the idea of saying yes more slowly.
So instead of immediately agreeing to something out of habit or obligation,
All right.
you pause, you get curious about the request, and really consider what you're committing to.
Exactly. It's about being thoughtful and intentional with your yeses. And of course, he brings back the 3 Ps framework
Okay.
to help you analyze the request.
Right.
If you're saying yes to this new project, what other projects might you need to say no to?
Yeah. What are the implications for the people involved? Are there any patterns or dynamics at play that you need to be aware of?
It's like having a decision-making filter.
Yeah.
Making sure you're not just reacting emotionally, but considering the bigger picture.
Right. And he also provides some helpful language for actually saying no in a way that's firm but respectful.
Okay.
It's not about being rude.
Right.
It's about setting clear boundaries and protecting your time and energy.
All of this is really making me rethink how I approach leadership and interaction in general.
Yeah.
It's not just about giving orders or even giving advice. It's about fostering growth and empowering people to find their own solutions.
As you start to incorporate these coaching habits,
Yeah.
you'll likely find that it not only improves your effectiveness as a leader, but it also deepens your relationships and creates a more positive and collaborative work environment.
It's about creating a culture where people feel safe to take risks,
Yeah,
experiment, and learn from their mistakes.
exactly. And Stanier actually uses this brilliant analogy in the book.
He compares coaching to hiking through a dense forest.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
He talks about how it's easy to get lost in the weeds, to focus on the immediate obstacles and lose sight of the bigger picture.
Yeah.
The coach's job is to help the person navigate through that forest,
Okay.
to clear a path and guide them toward their destination.
But not by simply telling them which way to go or carrying them on your back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about equipping them with the tools and skills they need to find their own way.
Yeah.
It's about fostering that sense of self-reliance and resilience.
I love that analogy.
Yeah,
And it makes me think about all the times I've tried to rescue people
right.
instead of letting them figure things out for themselves.
Yeah,
And I'm starting to realize that while my intentions might have been good,
right.
I wasn't really doing them any favors in the long run.
It's a common trap we all fall into.
Yeah.
But as we shift our approach from advice giving to curiosity,
Yeah.
we not only empower others, but we also free ourselves from that burden of having to have all the answers.
That's such a liberating thought.
It is.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of staying curious, asking the right questions, actively listening, saying no effectively. Is there anything else from the book that you think our listeners should really take away?
I think the most important takeaway is to just start practicing.
Yeah.
Pick one question. Try it out in a real-world situation and see what happens. You might be surprised by the results.
That's a great point. It's not about memorizing all 7 questions perfectly.
Right.
It's about developing that coaching mindset,
Yes.
that curiosity, that desire to help others grow.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
There will be times when you fall back into old habits, and that's okay.
Right.
Just keep practicing, keep experimenting, and keep that spirit of curiosity alive.
This has been such a valuable deep dive.
It has.
And I'm feeling so inspired to start incorporating these coaching habits into my own life. But before we wrap up, there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to explore.
Oh, you mean how to apply all of this to our inboxes?
Exactly. You know how we were talking about feeling overwhelmed by email and all those endless message threads?
Yes.
Well, imagine being able to use these simple questions to cut through the clutter, get to the point faster, and actually help people think for themselves.
It's a game changer.
Yeah.
And not as tricky as you might think.
Okay.
Let's say you get one of those long, rambling emails where someone is clearly struggling with a problem, but they're not being very clear about what they need from you.
Yeah.
Instead of writing back a lengthy response trying to solve their problem for them,
Right.
you can simply reply with one of the essential questions.
So, for example, if someone is going on and on about a frustrating situation with a colleague,
Yes.
you could just reply with, "What's the real challenge here for you?"
Exactly.
Okay.
Or if someone sends you a vague request for help, you could ask, what do you want from me?
It immediately shifts the dynamic
Right.
from you fix it to let's clarify what you need and how I can best support you.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's like taking all the principles of good coaching and applying them to the digital world.
Right. And it can be a real time saver.
Yeah.
Instead of spending hours crafting lengthy email responses,
Right.
you can use these questions to quickly get to the heart of the matter and move towards a resolution.
It's about shifting from being a rescuer to being a coach.
I love it.
Yeah.
Even in your written communication.
Exactly.
I'm already starting to think about how I can incorporate these questions into my email responses.
Yep.
It's so easy to fall into that default mode of trying to fix everything for everyone.
Right?
But this is a much more empowering approach, both for me and for the people I'm communicating with.
It is.
This has been such a valuable deep dive. But before we wrap up, there's one more point from the book that I wanted to touch on, the importance of celebrating success.
Yeah, celebrating success, even those small wins, is so important.
Yeah.
It reinforces positive behavior, it boosts morale, and creates a more positive and supportive work environment.
And Stanier emphasizes that it doesn't have to be a big formal thing.
Right.
It could be as simple as acknowledging someone's effort, expressing gratitude, or just sharing a moment of joy and recognition.
Exactly. And it's not just about celebrating the big milestones.
Right.
It's about noticing those everyday wins that often go unnoticed. It could be someone going above and beyond on a project, coming up with a creative solution, or just showing a willingness to learn and grow.
Right. Those small moments of recognition can make a huge difference in how people feel about their work and their contributions to the team.
It creates a ripple effect.
Yeah.
When people feel appreciated and valued, they're more likely to go the extra mile, support their colleagues, and contribute to a more positive and collaborative work culture.
So as you're starting to build your own coaching habit, remember to celebrate those successes along the way.
Absolutely.
It makes the journey more enjoyable and rewarding for everyone involved.
It's about fostering a sense of shared accomplishment and creating a culture where everyone feels like they're part of something bigger than themselves.
Well said, and I think that's a perfect segue into our final thoughts as we wrap up this deep dive into the coaching habit. You know, I think the biggest takeaway for me from all of this is it's not just about being a better manager or leader, it's about being a better human.
Yeah.
These coaching habits encourage empathy and active listening and a genuine desire to see other people succeed.
I completely agree. And what I love about Stanier's approach is that it's not about some complex system or rigid set of rules. It's about cultivating a mindset, a way of being in the world that's more curious, more compassionate, and ultimately more empowering.
It's about shifting from a transactional to a transformational approach to leadership,
Yeah.
seeing the potential in others and helping them unlock it,
Mm-hmm.
rather than just focusing on tasks and outcomes.
Exactly. And I think that's something that resonates with people on a deep level. We all crave that sense of connection, that
Yeah.
feeling of being seen and heard and supported.
Right.
And these coaching habits give us a framework for creating that kind of environment.
So if you're listening to this and you're feeling overwhelmed or stuck in that busyness trap, or just looking for a more effective way to lead and interact with your team,
Yeah.
I highly recommend checking out the coaching habit. It's packed with practical advice that you can start using today.
And remember, the best way to learn is to just start practicing.
Yeah.
Pick one question, try it out in a real-world situation, and see what happens. You might be surprised by the results.
It's like that saying, knowledge is knowing a tomato is a fruit.
Right.
Wisdom is not putting it in a fruit salad.
That's a good one.
Yeah, we've only scratched the surface today, but hopefully this has given you a taste of how powerful these simple questions can be in transforming your leadership and your interactions with others. We'll include links to all the resources that we mentioned in the show notes, including Michael Bungay Stanier's website, his My One Best Question video series, and some of his other fantastic books.
And be sure to check out our website and social media channels for more deep dives, insights, and resources to help you live a more curious, engaged, and fulfilling life.
Thanks for joining us on this adventure, and we'll see you next time for another fascinating exploration into the world of ideas, insights, and practical wisdom.
Until then, keep asking those great questions and stay curious.
See you next time on the Facilitators Deep Dive Podcast, your podcast on your way to facilitation mastery. Until next time.
See you then.